Hey there, Cam here from Training Talk. Today's episode I want to talk about trying not to burn out while using AI. So a lot of coaches are using AI, not necessarily for coaching, but for the admin side of their business. And I've been doing that as well. And I can just do things 10 times the speed, get 10 times as much done. But there is a real downside to that, and I'm really feeling it. So, something that might have taken you days or even weeks can take you a couple of hours, or even maybe a first version just a couple of minutes with AI. So that's a real advantage because it can help you move faster, communicate better. I'm not a great writer, so AI helps me with my writing. It doesn't necessarily do the writing for me. It can reduce repetitive work. Maybe the tasks like the actual typing, the copying and pasting, the clicking around an app. But so it saves all this time, but now we've got all of these different problems that we need to deal with. So it can help us create things faster than our brains, our systems, or our customers can naturally keep up with. So I don't think anymore the challenge is like whether you should use AI or not. I think, of course, we should in some ways. You have to be discerning about how you use it. But the challenge really is how to work at AI speed without burning out or getting overwhelmed or flooding people with content that is too much for them to keep up with or absorb. So before AI, the bottleneck was always like creating of the things. You had an idea, but then you had to turn that idea into something useful, and that took time. So, for example, in software, that might have meant like writing specifications, designing screens, writing the code, testing it, documenting it, and then releasing it. For coaches, that might have meant creating training resources, writing emails, building onboarding material for new customers, developing courses, planning social media content, or just improving athlete communication. So that work took time, and there was a natural limit to how much you could create. But AI removes a lot of that friction that slows you down. So you can now produce, I don't know, 10 times 10 ideas in the time that it used to take you to produce one. So you can draft a guide, outline a webinar, generate social media campaign, create an athlete checklist, or sketch out some sort of coaching product almost instantly, and then refine it, etc. So that's really powerful, but it also means we probably need to develop new habits. Because the hard part is no longer simply making the things happen. The hard part is deciding what all of those things that you can do, you should actually do. Which of those things should actually exist, and what should be released now, and what you should wait for, and what you should not do at all. So speed creates a pressure. So in software development, my experience is that AI can help us move incredibly fast. We can generate code, do all the testing, draft articles, create product copy, summarize athlete feedback, all of this stuff, but actually releasing the software to the customers is not, to coaches in my example, is not just about the building the feature. So the feature needs to be understood, it needs to be tested, it needs to fit into the product well. It needs to be what coaches actually need, and I've struggled a lot with that recently. So, a lot of FOMO, a lot of AI stuff everywhere, AI platforms claiming that they can coach athletes better than coaches, and I'm like, oh, what do I need to build to help coaches and help me battle all of these things that are happening? So, and then you got to get the marketing out to position it properly. And then the feature needs to make the product better, not just bigger, not just more stuff. So AI speeds up the creation, but it does not take the replace of judgment. So in fact, it increases the need for you to have good judgment about what you create and what you put out in the world. Because now, when so many more things are possible to build, create, the more directions there are to chase and the easier it is to go off track. And not because we don't have enough ideas, but probably because we have too many and we might be overconfident how many of these ideas we can get into the world because of AI. So one thing to touch on is context switching. So I've talked about this before is now that I'm writing a bunch of code, and then I will let the AI do something, do all the typing. I'll explain what I want it to do, and then I'll jump off and do something else. I'll work on some content or I'll send an email, and then I'll wait for the AI to finish, and then I'll come back to it, and then I'll be like, okay, now I've got to switch context back to that again. Whereas I used to really just do deep work on coding, or writing even. So you're just doing the work, it requires all of your attention, so you just get deep into it, and then that feels really productive, and hours can go by and you feel really good after it. But if you're switching constantly between things, then that can leave you feeling exhausted. So it leaves me feeling mentally exhausted anyway. And then often I feel like I haven't really achieved anything, even if you actually have. You know, you're just changing lanes constantly, you're moving fast, but then you get to the end of the day and your brain's just scrambled. That's how I feel anyway. So when you're generating stuff, like each output might be useful, but every output still needs your judgment. And so you have to think, does this sound like me if it's content? Is this right for my clients? In my case, coaches. In your case, is this right for your athletes? Does this fit your coaching philosophy? Now that's a big thing. So you can really train your AI to do that, but you still need to review it. Will this actually improve your athlete's experience? That's the biggest one. And should I publish this now, or should I publish it later, or should I never publish it at all? So AI can create the material, but you have to still make all of the judgment calls, all of the decisions. And then the more decisions you make, the more this can build up as mental load and get decision fatigue. So also, creation is not the same as delivery. So just because you can create something and build it doesn't mean that your customers can absorb it quickly enough. So a product, for example, something like training tool, we need to be careful. We've made the mistake before that a product can end up having too many features and end up being worse than it would have been if it has less features, because you need to explain everything, you need to structure everything, and everything needs to have a coherent purpose. And it's the same with all of your coaching content. So your customers don't want constant new feedback or constant change just for the sake of it. They want things that can help them progress, things that can help them. So they want improvements that make their life easier and better, not updates that force them to keep relearning things or keep consuming things. So it's the same in software as it is in coaching. Just because you can create more content for athletes doesn't mean that they can consume it all. So you could create a whole bunch of stuff: weekly mindset emails, nutrition guides, race prep checklists, strength plans, recovery education, technique videos, all of this stuff, but your athletes still have limited attention. So they have jobs, families, they have to do the actual training. They're going to be tired, they're going to be stressed, and of course they got all their other life outside of the sport. So more content is not always more value, and sometimes this content just becomes more noise. So the real skill is not creating everything you can. The real skill is creating the right things, delivering them at the right time in a way that your athletes can actually consume and use them. So what does that mean? Well, it means we need better systems, not just faster tools. So the answer is not to slow everything down and pretend AI doesn't exist and do everything manually, because AI gives us, a genuine productivity advantage, especially if you've got everything structured well in whatever AI tool you're using. And it will help us save time, move ideas forward, and create a better experience for the people that we serve. But faster tools require better systems where you may not have needed structured systems before. When you've got so much more pumping through the pipeline, then you definitely need more systems. So in software, that's like clear release planning, stronger product priorities, better testing processes, and really deliberate communication. So that's what I'm trying to work on, a training tool. And for coaches, that might mean having a clear content calendar, which you might not have had before, and creating an athlete onboarding journey, a really structured journey that takes them through the content that you have. A library of reusable resources that are categorized and well organized, and a rhythm for how you communicate that to your clients or to your community. So without these systems, your AI output might pile up. You might end up with a lot of unfinished little projects that you've got, which I've got. And so you end up with drafts, ideas, all of these resources, half-built marketing campaigns, unfinished products, and a growing sense that you're falling behind. So I've definitely got that at the moment. I'm doing a lot more than I've ever done before. I'm working a lot more hours, but I still have this feeling that I'm still behind. And I think it's because I've tried to do too many things and not finished off the things that I've been doing. And this comes back to, because you feel like you've got so much more productivity, or you feel like you can do a lot more ideas than you ever could before. So you do try and do them. And then, so that's the strange thing about this AI productivity. It can make you feel way more capable, like you got superpowers, but it makes you feel like you're falling behind at the same time. And that's where I'm feeling at the moment. So the solution could be something like creating containers for the speed. So instead of asking, what else can I create? Ask, what is the priority this week? Where will this be used? Who is this for exactly? When will they get it? What needs to happen before this is useful? Basically, how do you define that this is done and useful? And what will you not create right now to make sure you answer all of those previous questions correctly? So AI works best when it's pointed at a clear problem, not when it's allowed to generate endless possibilities. So in software, saying yes to every new feature, that'll just end up with a bloated product. They become harder to use, harder to support, and harder to explain, and harder to sell. In coaching, saying yes to every content idea will lead to like a bloated athlete experience, athlete receiving too many messages so they just stop reading them at all, too many resources, too many instructions, and too many things to think about. So as we know, more is not always better, just like training, better is better. But that's hard. So a simple, well-timed message can be more valuable than a 20-page guide. A clear onboarding journey can be more powerful than a full library of unused resources. A focused community discussion can create way more engagement than daily AI-generated posts. A small product improvement that solves a real pain point will matter more than 5 shiny new things. So AI gives us more capacity to create, but sustainable growth always comes from using that capacity wisely. So coaches now need to protect their judgment more than ever. So AI can be incredibly useful. It can help you communicate more consistently, package everything up, create all of these resources, and use well. That's really powerful. But your value is not that you can produce more content than ever before. Your value is being able to judge that content. It's the same thing with how there's so many things on the internet. You might say, oh, athletes can just go and find out all of this information. It's all online. No, it's the judgment to be able to discern what is good advice for them and what is not good advice for them. So your ability to create a coaching experience that feels personal, clear, and supportive is the key. So AI should support that. It shouldn't bury it in a mountain of like extra output. So the goal is not to become a content factory. The goal is to build a better coaching business. And that means using AI to create more space for the work that matters most. And that's coaching. So connecting, guiding, and leading your athletes. So what are some practical ways to stay calm while using AI? I mean, these are just ideas. I'm still struggling with this myself. It's a work in progress. But here's a few simple strategies that are, with the help of AI, I came up with. So it's batching your AI work. So instead of asking AI to do small tasks all day long, group similar tasks together, write your prompts, generate the outputs, and then come back to it and review them all in a focused block. So that reduces the mental cost of constantly switching between different AI jobs that you're working on. 2, separate creation from editing. So you're always going to have to edit the drafts that AI creates. So AI is awesome for that, but reviewing, editing, and deciding what is good requires a slightly different mental state than actually prompting for the ideas to begin with. So don't try to create and then judge at the same time. So let AI help you produce the options, the drafts, and then come back to it and just do like an editing session. You manually edit it, still use AI a little bit to help you with the editing. And then 3, create a not now list. So if you come up with all of these ideas, just put them in a list. That's fine. You don't need to act on them all at once, and just keep that list somewhere so then you can draw from it later when you need new ideas. And 4, set a delivery rhythm. So for me, for software teams, that might mean releasing features on a clear schedule instead of just pushing everything out as and when you finish it. So for coaches, that might mean sending one athlete resource a week instead of just whenever you create them when your AI finishes them. So that gives your audience the time to absorb the value. It also gives you time to breathe. And this used to happen naturally because of time constraints. It took so long to create it. But now you probably need to consciously slow yourself down. 5, ask whether this reduces load or adds load. So before releasing a feature, sending a resource, or publishing a piece of content, ask, will this make life easier for the person receiving it, or will it give them another job to do? So this is especially important for coaches because your athletes are already managing training, recovery, work, family, life, etc. So your content should support them rather than adding more pressure on things that they think that they need to consume. So 6, finally, use AI to simplify things, not to expand things. So if you've written it, like quite often, like I write too many words and I say too much and I say things over and over again in a different way, you can use your AI with good prompts to say, hey, can you break this down to its simplest, most consumable form? And that's where AI can become incredibly valuable. It's really good at taking a lot of information and then distilling it down to the important points. So in that way, it's not just helping you create, it's helping you create something that your athletes and your audience can understand with less effort. So AI will keep getting faster, probably, and the amount of stuff we can create will keep getting larger. But the people who will be successful will be the people who can filter and then focus and then only deliver what matters the most. And I think you're starting to see that now. So for me, that means building features that customers actually need, and that's a big challenge. Explaining them clearly to those customers and releasing them in a way that improves the training tool experience for coaches, helps them with their business, etc. So for coaches, that means creating resources, communications, and systems that help athletes feel more supported, not more overwhelmed. So AI is an incredible tool, but it's just a tool, just like anything else. So the real advantage will come from building the skills and knowing what to create, when to deliver it, and when to stop. Because your customers and athletes do not need more stuff for the sake of it. They need clarity, they need progress, and they need the right support at the right time. And then sometimes the smartest thing you can do with AI is to not move slower or faster, but just to move more deliberately. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed that episode. Let me know what your struggles are with AI. I'd love to hear them. I'm battling it myself, and we're all just learning as we go.